Welcome to this month's Insights interview from the Payments Association. I'm Tony Craddock, I'm the Director General of the Payments Association, and today I'm joined by someone with a glittering LinkedIn profile as a technology and innovation leader and strategic advisor, a contributor to the PayTech book and the AI book. In the last 2 years has been voted as Top 10 Innovator, Top 10 Women in FinTech, and most recently, Top 10 FinTech Influencer, which is all wonderful. She speaks widely at conferences on topics as varied as open banking, payments, blockchain and AI, as well as FinTech in MENA and diversity in FinTech. She's a senior advisor at Truffle Capital Europe, FinTech ambassador at TI's Tech, global faculty member of Asian Institute of Digital Transformation, my word, and a senior lecturer at the Center for Finance, Technology and Entrepreneurship. I must say, I really can't believe that we haven't have been able to feature this profile today on our Payments Wall of Fame before. But to address this oversight, please welcome the CEO and founder of Creative Link, Anna Maj.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for having me. And I'm really excited and pleased to be here with you today. And I must say, it was one of the longest introductions I've ever heard. So, long story about myself, but thank you for your kind words.
Well, that's all right. I must say, I did have to edit this, what I read on the internet about you, but it's a privilege to be able to discuss a few things. And we're going to start, Anna, with the thing I open every single Insights interview with. And I ask my VIP guest how they stay motivated, what makes them go the extra mile when they're facing the balancing of challenging jobs and home lives. And you have an amazing array of roles in your portfolio. What is it that continues to motivate you?
I think this is about curiosity in the first row. And of course, I was always eager to learn more and go beyond and explore more opportunities. And I started with a kind of a standard corporate career path, but then I shifted more into freelance advisory and just wearing different hats, as you brilliantly put it in the introduction, or just summarize it in the introduction. So now I have, first of all, more flexibility or more freedom to operate, let's say. But I also have this, in a way, privilege or luxury to get more access to the market and to see innovative solutions in the market. I have access to many startups and to the breakthrough innovation through different projects and different roles, including EIC, European Innovation Council, but also Truffle Capital that you mentioned. So absolutely, this is about the learning curve and the ability to learn and explore more.
So you're deeply curious about discovering stuff, and is that the thing that binds? What is the thing that binds your different roles together? Because it looks like you could take on a whole range of things, but I imagine there's some backbone that spreads through all of these things. What is that backbone?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started with payments, and this is my expertise. This is my domain. And of course, payments, as you know, it's a very broad area. So you can have merchant services, but also digital wallets, now blockchain-based payments, cross-border payments. But of course, I started with mobile payments, with digital payments, and then I gradually enhanced this experience in payments. And I think that really bonds it together is new technologies that are underlying payments. And of course, with time, this type of technologies, they were called or they fall under the definition of fintech. So now I'm exploring more in the fintech area with all the technologies that are there. So what really combines this role together, these are new technologies and innovation, very much focused on payments, which is my expertise, but also other financial services. So I just broader this perspective, and I brought more of the technologies like artificial intelligence or blockchain, because of course this is a kind of a necessity with the market developments and also technology developments. So I can just wear different hats, like being an advisor, being a speaker, or being an investor. But just the common ground for all this is the innovation and new technologies around payments.
But what's brilliant is, I don't know anybody who went to university to study payments. I mean, you started off by studying cultural anthropology at the University of Warsaw, and then you took an MBA after that. I mean, what was it in your early childhood or earlier years that maybe prepared you for the journey that you've taken?
That's a very interesting question, and I don't know if I know the answer for it, because I said, this is again something coming down to the curiosity. Perhaps I was exploring some of the opportunities, different areas. So my first dream job was being an archaeologist. So definitely discover things, but things from the past, not be very much future oriented. And I think this kind of a passion about researching, exploring, and discovering really materializes, but in a rather like more future oriented or futuristic approach. So maybe this is about it. And then just on top of that, because you mentioned cultural anthropology, but what I graduated from, this is exactly, it was a kind of multidisciplinary or multi-faculty, if you wish, curriculum with an individual track. So I could explore not only cultural anthropology, which was like a core domain, but also some other areas in humanities. So I studied like art, history of art, or philosophy, or some languages. So like different. So if you see, this is not a very much focused approach, but definitely something that gives me opportunity to explore, to see different perspectives, and to satisfy this kind of curiosity or appetite for more knowledge or for more expertise. So I think this is exactly the course. I explore some of these areas, and I'm still exploring different areas around fintech or payments. So I can't be really just satisfied by just being a master in one area only. This is not my approach. So I think this is more like a kind of a polymath or renaissance oriented. Sometimes there are some drawbacks, of course, there are some positive sides of it, but at the end of the day, this is about the perspective you have.
Very good. Broad, drawing in different disciplines and different perspectives to give you what is probably a unique view. It's quite interesting when I look at your background, and of course you were brought up in Eastern Europe, and we're going to come back to talking about what's happening there at the moment a little bit later. But do you think your Polish upbringing shaped how you approach your career now?
Again, it's a very good question, and I'm not sure if there is anything unique. So maybe some other people can really just tell me. So, but one observation that I made through these years, and it was repeated because there are at least two corporations that I remember, and I can't, probably I shouldn't even mention their names, but there are just really large international corporations. And just they were recruiting people, and the brief was that they really seeking for a female role model, and preferably from Central Eastern Europe, because the perception of females from Central Eastern Europe is that they are very strong personalities, they are really persistent, they know what they want, and they are good achievers. They can really just deliver, and they can just deliver the results. And so I think there must be something. I'm not sure that I can fit into this definition, but definitely this is something about Polish people, but also Slavic people, because it comes down to the nation, but also to the political regime and economical regime that we were under. So like communist regime. And when this regime collapsed, I was just finishing my primary education, so my primary school, and it was a kind of transition to the like second level of education. And I remember it very, very clearly. So it was a kind of a like a timestamp, I would say, something very, very important in my life, and something very meaningful in terms of the entire country, what the country was going through, but also my individual life. And I even remember the first three elections, parliamentary elections, although I couldn't take part in at them, but definitely just I remember this day very, very, very clearly. And I was there with my father, who was just voting there.
Brilliant. I can imagine that must have been an extraordinary time to live through. It must have been amazing. And we've seen a lot of change in our industry over the last 20 or 30 years, as I'm sure you know. And I remember when we first met at one of the European Women in Payments events, and we're talking about something about which you're passionate, which is equality and diversity, fairness of opportunity. We were doing a lot of work at the time to encourage women to do what's required to get on the level playing field with men at the time, and also men to do what they need to do to ensure the level playing field and encouraging women to progress. To what extent do you think, we touch on the area of diversity, particularly gender diversity, how have things moved on and how have our goals changed since then, would you say?
First of all, my definition of diversity, and definitely a lot of people will or would agree with it, is it's much broader. It's not about gender diversity only. It's about age. It's about cultural background. So cultural anthropology fits very well. And then the skills and capabilities or any other profile that can be put together. And absolutely, as I really believe that innovation can be born or can be created in the intersection of different sectors or verticals. If you connect, even if we talk about the open ecosystem and now what's happening in the open banking, in the open finance area, and also just heading towards the open data ecosystem. So the same really refers to diversity. So that's why I really believe this is a brilliant source for innovation. If you put different people together and they sit at the same table and they can exchange their views and opinions, they can really create something new, and at least they are different perspectives that I heard, and they have a voice that can be heard. So this is a kind of a cultural anthropology phenomenon as well. So it's like a melting pot of different cultures that are put together. Although there are some pitfalls as well, because with cultural backgrounds, of course, this kind of diversity. You see different people, different patterns, different beliefs, different values coming from different geographies. But on the other hand, there are some cultural bias or some cultural stereotypes that are involved. Even if you ask me the question, or once you asked me the question before about being Polish, there's something specific. Okay, I think that saying that the female from Central Europe, they are strong, or they are perceived as strong, and they are very successful in business and some corporate decision-making roles, that might be kind of a stereotype. Yes. And definitely, very often as human beings, we are just caught by these stereotypes, and our decisions and our perception is very much driven by this bias. So just to be aware of that is very good. So when I'm talking about diversity, it's a broader perspective, and absolutely, I've seen a lot of changes. We all witness it, and there are just big corporations hiring more and more women, and of course, in the decision making or CEO, CX roles. That's good. But to be honest, I very often share this experience when I started 22 years ago at Citigroup. So it was a very man-led or male-dominated environment, because I started in the e-business unit, and with mobile payments, a lot of technology and so on, with internet booming. But I didn't realize there is something like just that we need more diversity or inclusion or gender diversity. So I worked with my peers, and I was like, I didn't even feel like just that we need something to be changed. But then with time, once I progressed in this career path, and just the higher I was, and I was the CEO of the payment company, then I realized that maybe there is something not working properly, and then one female, one woman can really change it. So we really need more women. And if I was sitting there in the boardroom and I was the only woman there, and then the men were sitting then in the board of directors and management board, so it was a kind of a difficult situation sometimes for me to be really persistent, or to be really heard with my opinions. So I think just the more women we have, of course, this is something that really comes back to the diversity issue, but also the stronger we are, and the stronger the organizations are, generally speaking.
Well, I think there's a correlation between the two, and the evidence suggests that there is a link between those who have a more diverse boardroom and those who are more successful in terms of delivering return on capital employed. So it's a commercial decision to be taken as well. I do think we're making good progress. I think it's gradual, it's evolutionary, not revolutionary, and some people think it should be more of a revolution. I think the reality is you have to take everybody with you. Otherwise, it doesn't actually have the desired effect. So, no, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I'm reassured by what you say. But would you agree that we're making good progress?
Absolutely. So we are making a good progress. But yeah, of course, very much depends on the geographies, because if we talk about diversity in the like in the EU or Europe, generally speaking, so we have, or in the US, we have a lot of progress. But then if you look at some other geographies, like in Asia and India, for example, there is still a lot to be done.
That's
So very
true.
much, yeah. So in more traditional countries, in the Middle East, this is my observation. So I would say these are like two different streams. One is that it's still very traditional, and there are not very many women, but maybe with the exception of the company that I was advising for and collaborating with. So they were like 40% women in the decision-making position. So in the EXCO, so executive committee, which was very good, quite exceptional. But also there were some women in like chief digital officer roles in other banking corporations. So I think this is a very good sign, even in a kind of a traditional society or community. At least this is our perception. But then if you go there and you're this is again about the stereotypes and bias, and you see in practice that there are some other patterns. So definitely you just have a different perspective. So I think there is a lot of good initiatives, and also looking from the perspective of EU and the European Innovation Council that I'm involved in, there are some initiatives supporting women, like women innovators, like women in tech, and female founders can be supported. And these are programs exclusively for women. Sometimes this is against diversity, but of course we need this kind of a support and a push for women to be represented more.
You're absolutely, you do need to invest in accelerating, even if it takes the sort of initiatives you're talking about. Well, that's all very good, and I'm delighted to hear that. I'd like to move on to turn to a subject about which our community feels very strongly, which is to do with financial inclusion. And how we play a role in ensuring we take everyone with us. We've been doing work on this for a long time. MasterCard are the benefactor behind our project. We have a very active project team under Josh Burl, and we also supported the setting up the Inclusion Foundation. So lots of work being done. Have we done any? Has it made a difference? Because it is still a big problem, isn't it? Not just in developing countries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will again refer to different geographies, because if we talk about financial inclusion, so we understand by financial inclusion, I think we understand something different in Europe than in other geographies like Africa, like Latin America, or in Asia. So I would again say that for me, financial inclusion, there are different levels. So first of all, if the population is unbanked or underbanked, so this is the first access to the bank account, if people have bank account or not. But then there are other layers or levels, if you wish, that can be mentioned here. So for example, if there is a bank account, so if people transact or not, if they are making payments and how they are using the banking account, and then it comes to the cards as well, if they have the credit card, and some other means of payments, and all digital wallets, for example. And I can imagine the situation, definitely we know this situation, that people can have digital wallet or digital app without even having a bank account, especially the proper banking institution. So now I think that financial inclusion is something going beyond the banked or unbanked population. It's more about how you use financial services, what kind of services, financial services you have access to. And it again, the crucial point here is about education, because even if there are certain tools or like digital apps available in certain geographies, that again, it's about how they are being used, or if people are really just aware. And it brings me to another definition, a broader definition of financial inclusion, because nowadays everything is almost everything is digital, especially with the pandemic and with the COVID-19 crisis. So we've all seen this kind of acceleration. So then it falls under the digital inclusion or digital fitness, if you wish. So how we use digital tools and digital services. So if you have access to banking services, do you use a mobile app, do you use a digital app? Because there is still a certain like fraction of population that are not digital savvy
Yes.
or
Yes.
fit, and they are using traditional channels of interacting with banking services. And last but not least, something that is kind of a new, and I was puzzled by that. And puzzled, I mean, I think this is a kind of a question. For example, you still have a digital wallet, especially in developing countries like Vietnam, and they are very much known for crypto consumption and crypto adoption. So you have the digital wallet there, yeah, and you have crypto. And are you financially included or not? Because sometimes you don't even have a bank account, but you have your crypto wallet.
Yes.
And I think there are different layers or different levels for that. So, and also looking from different geographies perspective. So in Europe, we have different challenges, but still there are some people who are not digitally savvy, especially like older generation. But for example, in the Middle East, and this is the lesson I learned or the observation that I made, digital payroll services are very popular. And of course, you can have a digital app on your smartphone if you have any, because some of course, like I think 30% of people there, I'm talking about the expats. So like expats from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, working there. And they have to have the money, just the salary, or in this case, like wages, transferred to a kind of a payment instrument. They don't have bank accounts, but they have a bank, not a banking, a digital app. Sometimes it's not an app; it's a prepaid card only. But then the money is being transferred to this prepaid card, so they can either withdraw money or from the ATM, or they can pay traditionally in the physical outlets, in the physical shops, or which is the most represented use case, they are transferring the money to their own countries and homes, so like via international remittance. But very, very, is it about digital or financial inclusion? In a way, it is. This is also being required by certain geographies to have this kind of a bank account. But then we should remember that some of these people, either they don't have smartphones, they don't know how to use the mobile app. And I was facing these situations or witnessing these situations. And last but not least, some of these people still being like workers in the construction site, I think up to 10%, but for sure 5%, but I think even 10%, they are still, they can't write or read, so they are illiterate. So this is the kind of a challenge that we are facing here. But of course, it's very different from geography to geography, I would say.
I think it's great to share those anecdotes, because we do tend to see it from our own point of view, and the world is uniquely distinct in different areas, and the way in which people pay and get paid is uniquely different. One of the things we've been focusing a lot in the last 3 months, and it's quite interesting you talk about the Middle East, where you've just come back from, haven't you? So you just spent a year in, was it in Iran?
Yeah, almost a year, yeah.
Okay, and now you're back in Warsaw.
Yeah, I'm back in Warsaw, sir.
And just before this interview started, you were telling me a little bit about the fact that your neighbour Ukraine is in a position of war. What's it been like in Poland with your neighbours in that situation? What has been the feeling around the communities that you've been working in, and importantly, let's try and sort of see if we can extract something to do with fintech and payments here. What do you think we should do to help?
So thank you for this question, Tony, because it's very relevant to the situation, needless to say. And it's been 3 months of the war in Ukraine. And of course, being in Warsaw, being in Poland, and being Polish, I can witness it every day. So literally, we have a very big community of Ukrainian refugees or Ukrainian people in Warsaw. Every day, I can hear a Ukrainian language or Russian language. I can understand it as well. And this is like amazing, like a second city almost. So especially in my area, there are so many people from Ukraine. But having said that, just the burning question is how we can help. And of course, a very basic application of even payment services or financial services is different kinds of donations. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in Poland. It's happening in the UK, and of course, all around, especially in Europe. This is, I would say, the basic one, and not always the simplest one. Of course, it very much depends. But we also started, I think, from the beginning of the war, very soon after the war began. There was an initiative launched by one of the tech companies here in Poland, so Tech for Ukraine, and they were searching for tech companies who can help, including fintech companies. Mm-hmm. And one of the initiatives, so they were just creating a portal aggregating different services, so like mapping accommodation for Ukrainian refugees, mm-hmm. or facilitating searching for work, searching for job. So basically, there were the different services and different initiatives. I've also seen some of the initiatives in the EU. So there are like special programs focused on Ukrainian startups or Ukrainian founders, and also trying to help with financing. Because this is another level that's not only for Ukrainian companies or Ukrainian startups, but this is a more broader phenomenon that we now see this kind of a capital freeze. And I remember also being at Truffle, but also with some other initiatives, that there was a very big excess of capital, and capital was available in the market, and a big appetite from investors to invest in even in early stage startups. But now it's being frozen. So it's a big issue for the investment market. So maybe we can just come back to this as well. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of initiatives just supporting founders, so like tech startup founders or fintech startup founders in Poland, but also in different parts of Europe, in the UK as well. Not only donations and not only just payments or any collections of goods or money. Mm-hmm. I think another level, which is very interesting, is what really happens. So if I can make this kind of a comparison, so of course we know that like a pandemic and COVID accelerated digital services, digital channels, access to digital channels, also digital banking, way we interact with digital services, and e-commerce, generally speaking. But then the war in Ukraine, I don't know if it will stay with us or not, but what we've seen in the past months, this is the acceleration in a way in the era of crypto payments, but also crypto regulations. If you look at the word, especially in Europe, but not only, there are different initiatives. So even at the beginning of the war, very soon, President Zelensky in Ukraine, he facilitated some of the regulations regarding the interoperability. Yes. In the crypto payments. So also for incumbents, for traditional banks to accept it. Because in terms of donations, we mentioned donations or any other collections, Ukraine receives some of the financial aid in form of crypto and digital assets, including NFTs. So this is also very interesting. So if we think in terms of payments, and also in the US, there are several. I remember, like President Biden, he announced that they will just look deeper into the regulations for CBDCs, which is another part. Yes. And another story, but definitely there is a research initiatives on that, and there are more and more regulations, like crypto-related regulations in the US being brought by the US Congress, and also if you look at in the UK, but in some other countries, there is like a kind of a momentum for crypto and digital digital payments and digital assets. So maybe.
Do you think that's been accelerated by the war?
So this is what I'm trying to say. I just wanted to recap. So maybe I'm not like, just 100. This is not my thesis, like 100% confirmed. But so of course, this is not my like final reflection. This is rather a kind of a hypothesis, but just drawing this kind of a comparison between pandemic, how it accelerated digital services, and now how war in Ukraine potentially might impact the crypto and crypto payments markets, because there is a kind of acceleration in terms of regulations, but also adoption. Of course, we've seen like a massive drop in crypto assets, and of course in so what happened. But this is probably also correlated. But yeah, I think it's a kind of an exciting question or issue to be tackled.
I think it's a fascinating thought. I hadn't considered the correlation between additional global conflict levels and increasing concerns about and willingness to regulate the riskier side of money, and to some extent distinguishing between the very high risk, highly fluctuating and variable value crypto assets and the stable coins, which is the area that I think is going to be potentially most interesting. Look, I can't believe how the time's rattled past. We've just got a few minutes to go, Anna, if that's all right. And I'd just like to, unless is there anything else on Ukraine or the war that you'd like to comment on?
Oh, definitely, there will be a lot to say, especially in terms of any impact that it can make to the European economy, and not only to economy. And definitely it will be, if not a mid-term, maybe even like a long-term impact. But I don't think we have time to discuss it in details.
I'm sure you support the industry's initiative on its Ukrainian fundraising appeal to encourage companies to dig deep to support that.
Absolutely.
So finally, personal views. What's your biggest hope for our industry, the payments industry? What's the biggest hope?
My biggest hope, to be honest, is interoperability.
Yes.
And everybody who is in payments knows that this is about this is the business of scale. This is a business of building like multi-stakeholder ecosystem. But for that, we also need interoperability. And this is like kind of a holy grail. And we've been talking about this interoperability for years. And what I mean by interoperability, because again, there are different levels and different areas. So I mean cross-border payments, because if you see how fragmented the markets are, if we talk about global payments and the seamless experience, apart from the cards and from the payment schemes or payment networks, card networks standing behind it, they created a global standard. Now we have the very fragmented, and also some of the big tech wallets like Apple Pay or Google Pay. Definitely, there are so many local schemes. There are so many local solutions, local wallets. And we don't have to look at Africa when we have, I think that there are hundreds of different wallets, but we can only look at Europe. If you look at Scandinavian countries, and then just the Netherlands and Austria and Belgium, Payconic and Ideal in the Netherlands, in Poland, we have different payment schemes, especially for digital mobile payments. And of course, would be really great to have a common ground for that and interoperable system that I can pay with my wallet somewhere else. So this is something about just payments being really global, and especially alternative payments. Also, we have some issues with open banking. So open banking is a great thing, and absolutely, I'm a believer and strong advocate for open banking, open finance. But if you look from the payment perspective, and especially from cross-border payments perspective, then we have a kind of a challenge here. But so this is only the tip of the iceberg. If we look from the global payments perspective, I'm not even mentioning the B2B market. Also, it needs kind of but then interoperability. And if we took into account crypto payments again, so how you make it interoperable towards fiat currencies and fiat payments, there are some initiatives just started in the market, just trying to facilitate it and then enable that, like MasterCard with Coinbase, I guess, and so on. But definitely we need this kind of initiatives also on the PSPs and acquirers level, just to enable crypto payments and to be accepted by merchants, for example. And for that, we need this kind of interoperability, and also between the cryptocurrencies and then the stable coins. So this is a very, very complex area. So this is what I mean by interoperability. And I think this is the biggest challenge and just the biggest dilemma to be solved.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And in fact, the more you talked about it there, the more I realized there's layers upon layers upon layers. And I would hope that some of the standards that we've got, which are quasi-regulatory in nature, are going to help. But that's what we look to the authorities for leadership on, isn't it? And for them to collaborate across countries and across types of money and across ecosystems to enable that all to happen. Thank you. That's a really helpful hope, and I have that hope too. So thanks. Final question is, what advice would you give a new graduate, maybe a graduate of cultural anthropology, who approach you thinking about following in your first steps? What advice would you give them?
So I keep saying that I don't give advice. I can only share my experience, because every path, every individual is different, and of course, every person has a different story and different challenges to go through their lives. But having said that, again, from my experience, there are at least two pieces of advice. Let's say pieces of advice. But first is just to build a network, and just from very early days to connect to people, because then you can benefit from that in the later stage, at the later stage. So you can either ask for any second opinion, or you can be recommended for any job position. So definitely this is your, in a way, power. The power is in your network, and just the connections you make to people. And the second one is, it's not only for women, it's for everybody. So find your sponsors. So by sponsor, I mean that somebody who can really speak for yourself, so who can be your best advocate and advocate of your work, of your efforts, of your achievements, and can even speak about you in the room when you are not there. So somebody who will promote your work and who will pave the way for you, not a mentor, because that's a different, or a coach, and not even like a role model, but somebody who will definitely just facilitate your progress and your, especially in the professional career path, but not only, can be related to sport or to any other endeavors.
So build your network, find your sponsor.
And the third one? Yeah, and the third one, just to have an open mindset, and curious and open mindset. That I think this is a very straightforward one.
Wonderful. And which is one of the reasons why I love having the honor of interviewing people for these Insights interviews, because I have great curiosity, and I've learned a great deal about you, Anna. Thank you so much, and your perspective, unique. I love the variety of history and the sources from which you provide, not advice, but share experiences. Thank you very much indeed, the CEO and founder of Creative Link, Anna Maj. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here with you today. So thank you.